Some stories stay buried for a reason. Some secrets are meant to rot in silence, hidden away in dusty boxes and forgotten corners. But curiosity is a dangerous thing, and sometimes, when you dig too deep into the past, you unearth something that should have remained lost forever. This is one of those stories. Before we begin, let us know in the comments where you are watching from. We love hearing from our viewers around the world, and if you enjoy dark, twisted tales that will keep you up at night, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what is coming next. Now, let us begin. The rain hammered against the windows of the old Victorian house on Maple Street in Portland, Oregon. It was the kind of relentless autumn rain that seemed to seep into your bones, that made the city feel grit and hollow. Inside, three friends sat surrounded by cardboard boxes, their hands covered in dust, their faces lit by the dim glow of a single lamp. Marcus wiped his forehead with the back of his hand, leaving a streak of grime across his dark skin. At 28, he was the oldest of the group, a documentary filmmaker with a passion for uncovering forgotten stories. His camera equipment sat in the corner of the room, always ready, always watching. "This place is a gold mine," he said, pulling out a stack of yellow-red newspapers from 1987. "Your aunt really never threw anything away, did she, Sarah?" Sarah Chen looked up from the box she was sorting through, her black hair tied back in a messy ponytail. She was 26, an archivist at the Portland Historical Society, and inheriting her great-aunt's estate had felt like both a blessing and a burden. The old woman had died 3 months ago at 94, leaving behind a house filled with 70 years of accumulated memories. "And Margaret was over there," Sarah said with a sad smile. "But she always said everything had a story. She couldn't bear to throw away anything that might matter to someone, someday." The third person in the room, Jake Morrison, laughed as he held up a collection of vintage lunchboxes. "Well, these definitely matter. I could sell these online for a fortuna." Jake was 27, a perpetual optimist who worked in textiles and saw opportunity in everything. His sandy hair was disheveled, and his usual cheerful demeanor helped lighten the otherwise melancholic task of sorting through a dead woman's possessions. They had been at it for hours, sorting items into piles: keys, donate, sell, trash. The house creaked around them, old bones settling in the wind and rain. Outside, the street was empty, the neighborhood quiet except for the occasional hiss of tears on wet pavement. Marcus moved to another box, this one tucked far back in the corner of the attic space they were clearing. It was sealed with ancient packing tape that crumbled at his touch. Inside, beneath layers of moth-eaten fabric, he found something that made him pause. "Hey, check this out," he said, his voice carrying an edge of excitement. Sarah and Jake crowded around as Marcus lifted out an old cassette tape recorder, the kind that was popular in the late 80s and early 90s. It was dusty but appeared to be in decent condition, its plastic casing yellow-red with ash. Next to it was a showbox filled with cassette tapes, each one labeled in neat, feminine handwriting. "Family dinner, July 1989, Sarah read from one label. "Christmas morning, 1991, Margaret's birthday, 1993. She smiled, touched, and Margaret recorded everything." Jake picked up the recorder and examined it. "Think it still works?" "Only one way to find out," Marcus said. He was already thinking about the potential for his documentary work. Authentic audio from decades past, real voices captured in time. It was the kind of raw material he loved. They found batteries in a kitchen drawer, surprisingly fresh from a recent purchase Margaret must have made before her death. Marcus loaded them into the recorder and pressed play on one of the tapes. Static crackled through the small speaker, then a woman's voice, warm and alive, filled the room. "Yes, Christmas morning, 1991, and little Sarah just opened her present from Santa." Sarah's eyes welled with tears. She had been 7 years old at Christmas. The voice was her mother's, did know for 15 years from cancer. To hear her again, so vivid and real, was like being punched in the chest. They listened to several tapes, each one a window into moments long past. Birthday parties, Thanksgiving dinners, casual conversations about nothing and everything. The voices of the dead speaking as if they were still alive, still present, still here. Then Jake found it. The top was at the bottom of the box, separate from the others, wrapped in a plastic bag and sealed with rubber bands that had degraded into sticky residue. Unlike the other taps, this one had no label, just blank white space where writing should have been. This one is not marked, Jake said, turning it over in his hands. Maar que is filmmaker esse instinct prickling. Let us see what is on it. He ejected the current top and loaded the unmarked one into the recorder. For a moment, there was only the soft read of the mechanism, the top beginning to spin. Then came the static, louder than before, more aggressive, like the hiss of something alive and angry. Then a voice emerged from the noise. It was a man's voice, but wrong somehow. Too smooth, too measured, as if every word was being carefully selected and placed. The accent was American, but generic, the kind of voice that could belong to anyone and no one. Session 1. October 15, 1982. Subject: Margaret Chen, age 46. We'll begin with the baseline questions. Sarah S. Brithcott, that is yet Margaret, but she would have been 46 in 1982. What is this? Another voice came through, this one unmistakably Margaret S., but younger, stronger than the elderly woman Sarah had known. I don't understand why I am here. Evie told you everything I know. We need to verify your account, Mrs. Chen. For the record, can you describe what you saw on the night of October 3rd? There was a long pause, filled only with the sound of breathing and the faint hum of recording equipment. When Margaret spoke again, her voice trembled. I saw my daughter, Emily. She was standing in the backyard, by the old oak tree. She was wearing her yellow dress, the one she wore to church. And what time was this? Around midnight. He called in to sleep. I got up to get water and I looked out the kitchen window and there she was. The man's voice remained calm, clinical. Mrs. Chen, your daughter Emily died 6 months ago. She drowned in the Columbia River on April 3rd, 1982. Her body was recovered 3 days later. I know. Margaret's voice broke, raw with anguish. I know she is dead. I buried her. But I saw her. She was there, standing in the yard, and she was looking at me. She was looking right at me and she was smiling, but it wasn't there. It wasn't her smile. It was wrong. Everything about her was wrong. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. She had never known that Margaret had a daughter. Her father, Margaret's nephew, had never mentioned a cousin named Emily. The revelation hit her like cold water. Marcus and Jake exchanged glances, both unsettled but captivated. The interview continued. The man asked question after question, his tone never changing, never showing emotion. He wanted details, exact measurements of where the figure stood, precise descriptions of what it looked like, how it moved, what it did. And Margaret answered, her voice growing more strained, more desperate with each response. She walked toward the house, Margaret said, step by step, so slowly, like she was underwater. And her eyes, oh God, her eyes were completely black, no eye, no color, just black. And when she got close to the window, she pressed her hand against the glass and I could see it was blue like she'd been in the river, like she was still in the river. Did she communicate with you? She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Or if it did, he couldn't hear it through the glass. But I could see her lips moving, saying something over and over. What was she saying? Another long pause. Then, in a whisper, come with me, come with me, come with me. The tap continued for another minute, the interviewer asking more questions, Margaret becoming more incoherent, until finally the session ended with a click and silence returned. The three friends sat in stunned stillness. The rain outside seemed louder now, more insistent. The house felt colder. What the hell was that? Jake finally said. His usual cheerfulness completely gone. Sarah was pale, her hands shaking. I never knew about Emily. My dad never said anything about Ed Margaret having a daughter. Marcus's mind was racing. The interviewer, the way he was asking questions, it sounded official, like a police interview or a psychiatric evaluation. But why would it be on the cassette tape in a box in her attic? Sarah asked. And why was it hidden? separate from all her other recordings. Jake reached for the showbox. Out of their motto. There were 6 more unmarked tapes, each one wrapped in plastic, each one sealed away from the others. Marcos loaded the second one into the recorder. Session 2. October 22, 1982. The same interviewer, the same clinical tone. But this time, Margaret sounded worse, her voice hoarse and exhausted. Mrs. Chen, you reported another sighting. Can you describe it? She was in my bedroom. I woke up and she was standing at the foot of my bed. Just standing there, dripping water on the carpet. I turned on the light and she was still there. She didn't disappear. She just stood there, staring at me with those black eyes. How long did she remain visible? I don't know. Minutos. It felt like hours. E couldn't move. E couldn't scream. I just laid there and watched water pool around her feet, watched it soak into the carpet, and all I could think was that she was going to ruin the floor. The interviewer's voice took on a different quality, almost excited. Did she speak this time? Yes. Margaret's voice dropped to barely a whisper. She said, I am so cold, Mama. I am so cold in the water. Please come help me. Please come into the water with me. And what did you do? I closed my eyes. I prayed. I prayed until the sun came up. And when I opened my eyes again, she was gone. But the carpet was still wet. The water was real. Session 3 revealed that Margaret had been institutionalized briefly, placed under psychiatric observation. The interviewer was a doctor, though he never gave his name. Margaret described more visitations, each one more disturbing than the last. Emily appearing in mirrors. Emily's voice calling from the basement. The sound of dripping water following Margaret everywhere she went. By session 4, Margaret's mental state had deteriorated significantly. She was convinced that Emily was real, that her daughter hadn't truly died, that something had taken her place in the river. The doctor's questions became more pointed, more leading. Mrs. Chen, has anyone else seen these apparitions? No. My husband thinks I am crazy. He wants to commit me permanently. But I am not crazy. She is real. She is here. Have you considered that these experiences might be manifestations of your grief? That your mind is creating these images because you cannot accept your daughter's death? Evie considered it. Margaret's laugh was bitter. Evie considered everything. But explain the water. Explain how it is real and cold and leaves marks on the floor. Explain how I hear her voice when I am fully awake, in broad daylight. Explain this, doctor. The 5th tape was different. The recording quality was worse, as if it had been made with handheld equipment rather than professional devices. Margaret wasn't in a medical setting anymore. She was somewhere else, somewhere that echoed. Session 5. November 30, 1982. Location: the Chen residence. Mrs. Chen has agreed to allow us to observe the phenomenon directly. There were multiple voices now, not just the doctor. At least 3 or 4 other people, speaking in low tones, setting up equipment, giving instructions. Cameras in position. Audio recording live. Temperature baseline established at 68 degrees. Then silence. Long stretches of silence broken only by breathing, the creak of floorboards, someone shifting position. Minutos passed. On that tape, in real time, they waited. Then Margaret gasped. There, do you see her? By the window. She is there. I don't see anything, Mrs. Chen. She is right there. She is looking at us. She is. Oh God, she is moving. She is coming closer. The temperature had dropped. On that tape, someone confirmed it. Temperature now 42 degrees. Rapid drop over 30 seconds. The cameras. Are the cameras picking anything up? Negative. Nothing on thermal. Nothing on visual. But she is right here. Margaret's voice rose to a scream. She is right in front of me. She is reaching for me. Emily, baby, I am sorry. I am so sorry, Mrs. Chen. Calm down. There is nothing there. Her hand. She is touching me. It is so cold. It is a crash. The sound of equipment falling. People shouting. And then, cutting through everything else, a sound that made Sarah drop a recorder. It was a child's laugh. high and clear and utterly joyful, but underneath it, like a frequency just below human hearing, was something else. Something that sounded like screaming. The tap ended abruptly. "Turn it off," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "I don't want to hear anymore." But Marcus was already loading the sixth tap, his hands moving on autopilot, his filmmaker-esque curiosity overriding his fear. Session 6. December 19, 1982. Final report. The doctor's voice was different now. Strained, tired, almost afraid. "After 3 weeks of observation, I must conclude that Margaret Chen is experiencing genuine paranormal phenomena. The evidence, while circumstantial, is compelling. Temperature fluctuations, electromagnetic anomalies, audio recordings of voices that should not exist, and most significantly, the water." A pause. Papers rustling. "The water samples we collected from the Chen residence have been analyzed. The chemical composition matches exactly the water from the Columbia River at the location where Emily Chen's body was recovered. There is no plausible explanation for how river water, specific to that location, could appear repeatedly inside the home." Another pause, longer this time. "Mrs. Chen's mental state has deteriorated to the point where institutionalization is necessary. But I do not believe she is insane. I believe she is being haunted." By what? I cannot say. Whether it is truly the spirit of her daughter, or something else using her daughter's form, remains unknown. But it is real. It is measurably, observably real. What I am about to say is not in my official report. This recording is for my personal feels only. I have witnessed things in the house that have shaken my understanding of reality. I have felt the presence. I have heard the voice. And last night, when I was alone in the office, reviewing footage, his voice dropped to a whisper. I saw her, Emily Chen, standing in the corner of the frame for exactly 3 seconds before the camera malfunctioned. Her eyes were black, her skin was blue, and she was looking directly at the camera, directly at me. And I swear I heard her voice say, "Tell my mama I am waiting. Tell her to come to the water." The doctor took a shaky breath.